I begin with an anonymous letter I received. Reads, "Get your orangutan off my lawn, or I'll set fire to your bidet." Signed, Well-Wisher. My only retort is an orangutan is only human and needs exercise like any other Muswell Hill ratepayer. So, to Well-Wisher I say, I know all about you and a certain Miss Maureen Body of Hampstead Heath and other open spaces. So watch it. Reading in the paper today, a 3-year-old Turkish girl who weighs over 6 stones. It will be prophesied that she'll grow into the world's largest man, woman, and child. I don't think she can compare with England's own Miss Stanford of Chipping Sodbury, who stood 7'3" at the age of 5, and who at the age of 8 was declared a danger to shipping. It's said that flies died of old age while crossing her belly. At 14, she used to stand about in a reverie until the council had her pulled down and a compulsory building erected on the site. At 15, she could push over a cow, and when she sneezed, it smashed windows in Ashford, Sevenoaks, and Dungeness. A coming-out ball had to be held in a 100-acre field. Suitors thronged around her, more than 90 at a time dancing the waltz with her. Several were found dead in the folds of her gown when the dance was over. Her name was Barbara Elsie Margaret Penelope, but her friends called her Barbara Elsie Margaret Penelope. Now, here is a note for music lovers. People have been asking me about the origins of Dr Strabismus, whom God preserve, of Utrecht. The facts are scanty. The Strabismus family came originally from Bulgaria. His father was an illiterate, an ignorant Bulgar. His grandfather, a singing plumber, moved to Utrecht in 1856. It was a bad year for him. He died. Young Jan was born in 1897. A very easy birth. It only took 2 minutes. And he was immediately cautioned for speeding. At the age of 12, he strapped on a pair of homemade leather wings and leaped from the Eiffel Tower. That night, a new word was added to aviation history. Compound fracture. Recovering in hospital, he invented the triangular trouser button, still in use today by members of the YMCA. Let's hear now his latest lecture from the Sorbonne, Leeds.
Now, during long pieces of music in the long symphony orchestras, many musicians suffer agonies of the hunger. In 1892, towards the end of a 6-hour performance of Die Valkyries, the musicians were reduced to cannibalism. They boiled the lady percussionist in her own timpani with chips. Those days are gone, but the problem still remains. Therefore, tonight I'll be telling you how to eat and play at the same time. This is known as clarionet pie. First, we take the flour, mix the water, mix to it the paste, adding a few raisins, then dusting down with the dust powder. So, then we place the clarinet mid-center, rolling over the pastry like this, making sure to keep the mouthpiece clear. Then we are placing the whole merry dish into the gas oven on a low gas for 20 minutes. Here, thanks to Fanny Craddock, we have one already. This is known as flageolet and raisin pie or John Barbaroli-Poli pudding. Do not try and finger the raisins. How to keep bees in the cello and how to milk bagpipes.
Now, medical advice from our own Dr. Rhubarb. If you've got flatulence, burning shins, athlete's foot, athlete's teeth, high groin, scorflufus, flooding, the scrags and double rupture, don't despair. So has Dr. Rhubarb.
Excuse me, I want to deal with my correspondence. Millie. If he really was a colonel in the household cavalry, he would not have had Hilda tattooed across the base of his spine. And if you were a lady, you would not have seen it.
I often go to bed in my bowler hat. When my head is on the pillow, I find it difficult to keep the bowler on. When I lie on my back, the hat tilts forward and often falls off. And when I lie on my side, the brim presses into my ear. And this keeps me awake.
By a cap, you fool.
My gentleman friend always annoys my father and mother because whenever he comes to have a meal, he always cuts up his meat with a button hook. And when my dad says to him, why don't you use a knife? He says, well, you see, my shoes got laces, I don't need a button hook. And when my mum says, well, what you carry one about with you for? He says to unbutton me meat with rolls with laughter. What ought I to do?
Sew some buttons on his meat, you stupid woman.
It's the wife, Doctor. Every time she sees a mouse, she jumps on a table and stays there, sometimes for hours. How can I get her down?
Put the mouse on the table, sir. A dustman was emptying dustbins in the heart of a horrible slum, where no Viscount's white foot had e'er trodden, and no Marquis would venture to come. How taut were the socks of that dustman, which showed that he didn't forget the people's best friend in all troubles, Threadgold's Thoroughgrip Garterette.
When you're banging away in the dustbins, use Threadgold, Britain's best loved Garterettes.
Threadgold's Thoroughgrip, Threadgold's Thoroughgrip, Threadgold's Thoroughgrip Garterettes.
Yesterday at Brands Hatch, I broke 2 records. Omna Mai Piu, sung by Galacurci, and Vestula Jubia, sung by Caruso. Now then, Mrs. McGurgle's recent decision to bring a breath of the continental to Marine House has raised the hackles of her deadliest rival, Mrs. Faddick. Here, probing in death, is our reporter.
Mrs. Faddick runs Rest Haven at Bucktooth Regis. Now, I believe, Mrs. Faddick, that you hold strong views about Mrs. McGurgle's attempts to brighten up her boarding house.
Mrs. McGurgle's regime is but an excuse to import loose continental morals to the British seaside. Bucktooth Regis, as its name suggests, was once patronised by royalty.
Really? When was that?
Yes, in 1932, when no less a person than the ex-King Ignatius the Incontinent of Serbia passed a fortnight. And who knows but what royalty may pass this way again? And when that moment comes, I want my walls soberly decorated with lithographs of Highland cattle, and not with pictures of unclad adventuresses, which constitute, I'm told, the decor of Mrs. McGurgle's establishment.
A provocative statement. What can Mrs. McGurgle reply? We await tensely.
The picture to what Mrs. Faddick is referring is of no unclad adventuress. It is the mayor's wife, and is a photo of what was taken when the new Lido was opened. If by unclad, Mrs. Faddick refers to a sleeveless blouse and open-toed sandals, she must be new to the business. A festive snapshot of our Lady Mayoress will not give Marine House the appearance of Sodom and Gomorrah. One can only conclude that her mind is so narrow, one would have to prise her ears apart with a bread knife.
Mrs. Faddick, the stage is yours.
I will not descend to the level of vulgar abuse to which Mrs. McGurgle has seen fit to enter into. Suffice it to say that Rest Haven is British to the core.
If British means taking in as lodgers cosmopolitan gentlemen who play the violin in gypsy tea rooms and who have been observed pinching the waitresses, I want none of that.
Mr. Jollyfat was between engagements with a doily cart, and the waitress was his niece.
And I am the Queen of Iceland.
Nakedness is nakedness the world over, and I'll have none of it, Lady Mayoress. Ooh.
Mrs. Faddick is a whited sepulchre.
A whited what?
Sepulchre. Those who come from abroad to see our floral gardens will be greeted at Marine House by the fresh winds of laissez-faire, and not by the rancid and furtive breezes of illicit flirtations and golden earrings. Britain today stands at the crossroads, and the sign points unerringly to Marine House. Bed and breakfast 24 and 6pence. Cruet extra. Thank you.
A last word from Mrs. Faddock. This has been Mervyn Glue.
The child, Theobald James, 11, will now recite from A.A. Milne's When We Were Very, Very, and in 30 seconds will destroy a reputation it took him 32 years to build.
I've got a silkworm, a teeny tiny silkworm. I call my silkworm Theobald James, but Nancy says he's cruel. Nancy says he's wicked to call a teeny tiny silkworm name. I said to my silkworm, ooh, Mr. Silkworm, I'd rather be a silkworm than anything by far. And Nancy said he answered, Nancy said he shouted, you wish you were a silkworm, you little prig you are!
Ballet names are divided on the merits of the ballerina Gladys Tumbleover. Some claim that at 52 she is more magical than ever, but others that she's getting a bit long in the tutu. And her dying swan is more like stuffed Aylesbury duck. They say she should retire gracefully before the ointment wears off. A report from ballet critic Eric Badger on the Royal Ballet's latest offering, Le Chauffeur Fred.
When Tumbleover, moving like a piece of thistledown on the evening breeze, alights like the ghost of a fairy butterfly on the upturned face of serge trouserin, one realizes one is in for an intellectual banquet. What soin, what soif, what coiffement. Every demi-volte-face is lyric. Every pouf is an authentic avant-garde. What cru, what bru, what vireflette. Tumbleover defies the law of gravity at a single bound. When she leaps into the air, one wonders if she will ever come down. Ma foi, here is vintage equipoise with bouquet. But unfortunately, the ballet itself stinks.
Hello there. Are your nostrils exhausted? In these days of excitement and anxiety, we tend to breathe more frequently, which imposes an additional strain on the nostrils, the second most important breath duct. The man with weary nostrils soon becomes unfit. How can this be counteracted? Only by smearing the nostrils with Snivel, the innocuous reagent vouched for by 32,984 physicians and surgeons and an unfrocked upholsterer.
Use Snivel.
A troubled reader writes, recently I took a sea voyage in the hope of enjoying one of those shipboard romances one reads about. I inquired of my steward when might it be my turn to dine at Captain's table. He laughed openly, and from then on I was ostracized all the way back to Dover. Signed, Cynthia Pankhurst, Miss. Madam, dining at Captain's table is not the usual practice on the cross-channel car ferry. Here now are the winning entries in our Write a World-Shaking Headline contest. The winner, Marie Celeste arrives at Liverpool. Archduke Ferdinand of Austria still alive. World War I a mistake. And now, colourful romantic poet Roland Milk reads his own bovine pastoral.
Lovely big cow by the edge of the wood, I'll give you an apple if you are good. I want to be kind before the chant goes, for Aunt Sarah told me, and she always knows, that somebody told her, I hope he was wrong, you'll be put in a bottle before very long. So, lovely big cow, whose hide is all mottled, do eat up your apple before you get bottled.
Holiday page. Why not let your travel agent fly you abroad? Failing that, take a plane. You can enjoy a wonderful fortnight in the historic town of Berserk. There's always something going on in Berserk. Last week, one of its citizens made headlines. Berserk man sets fire to sleeping grandmother. A new adventure serial. It tells of a Tibetan enchanteress, Dingy Poos, who is really a secret bulk buying agent for MI1, and a self-confessed female to boot. The hero is an insipid explorer, Colonel Egham, who seeks the fabulous sapphire girdle. It tells of his journey to a land where no human eye has ever set foot. Episode 1, in the teeth of a blizzard.
Hitchiku, Kamashing Fu, Bang Ha. Mipsawiki.
Malaki,
What are you talking about?
I haven't the faintest idea. What were you saying, Mongo?
Here is what you have come 10,000 miles to Tibet to find. The
Get on,
great palace of our queen, Dinja Poo. Dinja Poo!
What is that fascinating cry of Te-Ah?
That is our great queen saying to us, Tia!
Welcome to Tibet.
You're welcome to it too, my dear.
I have been expecting you, Colonel Egham.
You know my name?
All Tibet knows of your great doings.
What?
Was it not the great Egham who was the first to scale Mount Krukraha? Or was it not the famous Egham who was the first man to discover the incredible lost world of Shangri-La?
No, that was my cousin, Gladys Egham.
Well, since you are here, perhaps you would care for some brick tea.
Yes, it's thirsty work, traveling 5,000 miles to find the sapphire girdle.
Not the sapphire girdle. That is the talk of all the bazaars from Kathmandu to Oldham.
The same. 6,000 miles across crocodile-infested rivers, across ice-driven poles, through lion-infested forests. Gold is green.
Gold is green.
Yes, I've got a very bad sense of direction, but I've got plenty of grit. I've got 2 sacks of it outside.
Perhaps you would care for some refreshment.
What is it? Better still, what was it?
This one is salted yak's foot in rancid butter. This is robali steeped in rancid butter. Rancid cheese and rice and rancid butter. Brick tea, yak's ear in rancid butter, and just plain rancid butter. What you English call high tea. You're not hungry, Colonel?
No, I just remembered I've left my Sherpas running.
Perhaps my humble spread does not please you.
It's not that, it's just that I have a touch of the Madras gunge.
Yes, well, the food is a little bit samey, that's true. But tell me, Colonel, what is your pleasure?
Find it on page 69 of Lady Chatterley's Lover. You haven't got an old potting shed handy, have you? But I digress.
I told you so.
I came here to ask your assistance, my dear, in finding the sapphire girdle.
Perhaps I can help. Is this what you seek?
It looks remarkably like it, my dear.
You come any nearer and I'll give you such a crack on the massage you'll wonder what hit you.
Oh! I wonder what hit me. I must take a more subtle approach. I'll give you 30 bob for it.
Father! Sapphire girdle that once adorned the Queen of Sheba. It is priceless.
I can see she's no fool. 2 quid, then.
No, Colonel Egum.
Yes?
Egum, I am a woman with a woman's dreams,
Of course.
a woman's hopes,
Yes.
a woman's needs.
Oh.
Take me away from all this.
Of course I will, my dear.
Take me away. Life is so dull here.
Yes, it is, my dear.
I cannot, how would you say?
What?
Express myself.
Express myself, that's how I say it. Nobody wants me, I'll be on the back.
Take me to Venice, to Capri, to Blackpool.
Would you bring the sapphire girdle with you?
Do you only love me for my girdle?
Try me and see, dingy poos. Marry me and all the bells in Tibet will go ting at our wedding.
But I am a humble Tibetan princess.
Yes.
Surely I'm not fit to be the wife of an English public schoolmaster.
Of course not, but marry me just the same. Marry me.
All right. And yet, I feel it is not me, but the sapphire girdle that you want. No!
Marry me and let me go.
Do you want to go?
Yes, but I'll take you with me back to the old country.
Which old country?
Any old country.
Stop! If you take 1 foot outside the Valley of Youth, you will turn immediately into a 1,000-year-old man, etc.
Oriental rubbish! Farewell!
I told him so.
I report a conversation I overheard the other day. A man asked his friend, "Where do you usually go nowadays for your shooting?" And his friend replied, "The National Provincial Bank."
Many of our greatest inventions were the result of some happy accident. You consider the case of James Watt. Sitting at home one evening, Watt brooded over a boiling kettle. Suddenly, he jumped up with a cry of, "Eureka!" His wife, Eureka Watt, rushed into the kitchen. "What is it, Watt?" "Oh, what? What is it?" Watt could hardly contain himself, but nobody's perfect. "Look," he cried. "There's the answer to all our transport problems." And without another word, he fitted 4 tiny wheels to the kettle, climbed inside, and took a cheap day excursion to Brighton. We launched yet another comprehensive service, Hints for Yourself by your do-it-yourself carpenter, presented by Cyril Gonigal.
Good evening, all you do-it-yourselfers. Now, before tonight's practical demonstration, I want to talk to you about wooden tomatoes. Lovely little delicacies they are, cause hours of harmless fun and hours of overtime for the dentist if you should put them in a salad. Now, what is most important is the size. See, a tomato that size, that won't be no good, because people would suspect, see? No, 'tis your mammoth job that sets up a doubt in people's minds. Many's the time I've heard a person say, "There is a doubt setting up in my people's minds." If I didn't know that was wooden, I'd say that was a mammoth tomato. Yes, but you've got to watch out for the wood rot, you see? Watch out for the wood rot, because a mammoth tomato made of wood and's got horrible wood rot in it, tastes wooden and horrible and rotten. Yes, well, anyway, now I'd like to give you a practical demonstration of how to make an hole in a piece of rotten wood that is shaped like a mammoth tomato. Now, you may think this is easy, but it ain't. A hammer and chisel is far too clumsy. So you've got to take your 1, 2, 3, 4 finger and press it gently in, see, firmly like that. See, sir, got that. There. Now, see, next week I'm going to speak to you on how to lead a normal, happy life with a mammoth tomato stuck on the end of the
Here is a very fine old folk song they sing in Devonshire.
and other tribal areas. Sung to my great-grandfather by an old centenarian in a village bar, and he heard it from his great-grandfather who fought in the English fleet against the Armada.
Oh, I's a yarn working on bulge of green, with a dumble down, yanking a dumble down the dee. I saw what I have never done seen, with a firmer tea pudding for the bars and... My lad, says I, with a dumble down junkie and a dumble down dee. Oh, taint man the cord and the Hampton dry, with a tumble down pudding for bars and... Nay, there go there, nay, there I beg, with a dumble down junkie and a dumble down dee. And off she scuds on her two hairy legs, and a firmity pudding for bars and... So all you lads with the tumble down dee, I did nothing and I didn't know. I was nothing, I was knee, and a firmity pudding for the bars and...
The treacle millionaire, Lord Groper of Neves, died suddenly after being run over by a steamroller. The accident so flattened him, he had to be buried in an envelope. But Sam Wag posted it to the Bishop of Dublin, and it was returned marked, opened in error. Thank you. And now we have Advert Corner.
Will the hypnotist who stared intently at the lady on the last mass from Nuneaton on October the 14th kindly clap his hands or something?
Retired cannibal would like to contact people with similar taste with the view of sharing friends.
Has the lady who kissed the cavalier with a false moustache at the Penge Carnival fancy dress ball looked in the mirror yet?
Unfrocked bishop wishes to sell a number of frocks, also an assortment of skirts, blouses, and high heels.
Cyril Doublet, an unemployed bread slicer, is available for work as a sandwich man.
Drusilla Dreshvas is available.
During the recent seasonal foul weather, I received the following letter, and it says, Dear Sir, yesterday morning I noticed that a blue tit had pecked the cap off my milk bottle. The milk inside was frozen, and the little bird had tiny skates on its feet, and was skating round and round on the milk. Yours faithfully, Mrs. Emily Gift Nostril. And now, our culture quiz. What is wrong, if anything, with the following sentences? Aperitif is French for a set of dentures. Durban is a lump on the head the shape of a turban. And finally, stalagmites are miniature German prison guards. Now, write your answers clearly and carefully on one side of a foolscap paper, wrap it in a brick, and throw it away. The editor's decision is final. And in the event of a draw, the winner will be awarded a weekend in the Lion Pit at Whipsnade Zoo with 3 free changes of underwear. Have you heard the latest in fashions? It's the new American noise clothing. Draw attention to yourself with a hat that goes. And this winter, buy Granny a pair of warm woolen drawers that go. And newlyweds, why not buy the bride a nightdress that goes? And then beat this winter's cold with the new electric plug-in underpants. Plug in, switch on, and... But a word of warning, Never cross your legs or else. We continue with a correspondent who has asked the best way to stop mice from coming downstairs in the early morning into the kitchen. The answer is hide their trousers while they're asleep at night. An acquaintance of mine saw an immigration poster that said Australia for £10 only. He paid his £10. When he got the country home, he realized he couldn't get it in the room.
And now our own Agony column.
If the old sailor who shouted, "Hello, dearie," through the letterbox will communicate with Miss Phoebe Basket, 9 Peabody Buildings, Battersea, he will hear something to his advantage.
Cyril, you say she hates the sight of you. Well, judging by your photograph, she's right.
Jocelyn, I'll write to you privately.
Hubert, yes, you may indeed be a lady killer, but please don't send us the bodies.
Janice, people in glass houses shouldn't.
The English have the sea in their blood, and in many cases you can see when it gets in. This, of course, leads to nautical prose, particularly sea fever. Now, I do not deny the Englishman's love of the sea, but I think that song, which is usually sung in a drawing room to Mr. Ireland's settings, should be amended like this. I must go down to the sea again, to the salt sea wind and the spray, and muck about on the promenade in the usual kind of way. And all I ask is a whelk stall and a stone's throw from the water, and a pint of shrimps in a paper bag with Fiona, the landlady's daughter. We're told that every year more and more English holiday makers go to the continent for their annual vacation. Now, to reverse this trend, Mrs. McGurgle is attempting to bring a touch of Deauville and Tossa del Mar to her establishment.
It's hello, Casa McGurgle. In fact, I am toying with the idea of rechristening our little home from home, Hotel McGurgle et de l'Univers. That seems to me to have the right international ring to it.
And the cooking?
Oh, that too has gone gay. The cabbage will now be boiled a lot longer, and the breakfast kipper is to be renamed Kipper de Mer Maître d'Hôtel.
Very appropriate.
Yes. You see, I know well the lofty secrets of the cordon bleu, having twice made the day trip to Boulogne.
Well, Mrs. McGurgle, how do you plan to make the cuisine more cosmopolitan?
I do not intend serving frogs fried in sparkling champagne, Mr. Glue. Oh, no, give me a good hot pot any day.
But didn't your experiences in Boulogne suggest anything to you?
They certainly did. They certainly did. But I did not take the trip to Boulogne in order to eat a lot of French mook. Oh, no. We took with us a flask of tea, of course, some bullseyes, a packet of crisps, a few sardines, and a bar of chocolate cream. When you are hungry, that is what I call food.
I'm sure you do. I notice that you're wearing a bangle on your ankle. Is that part of the new image?
It does not mean that I've been sold into slavery at the marketplace of Bognor, and it does not, in fact, emanate from Cap Ferrat. It is merely a curtain ring from Hammond and Pycroft of Scunthorpe. So you see, Mr. Glue, while imparting the continental flavour, we have not forgotten the true British boarding house virtues of good, honest food, no ladies in the rooms, and lights out at 9. Oh, la la, Mr. Glue, it will be magnifique. The food will be fit to rival the eating hells of Marseillaise. And the milk stout will be served aslant in wicker baskets. At our bi-weekly sing-songs, or soirees as I care to call them, the continental motif will be strongly in evidence. I myself have learned the words of several saucy songs, many of them in a foreign tongue. Madame, Oh, yes. Gay abandon is now to be our watchword, Mr. Glue.
A comment from Monty Clouds.
We old hands would rather Marine House stayed as it was. The new regime's a sight too racy for us. Let those who wish feast on paella on toast and risotto and chips. Mrs. Clouds and I prefer our rice with a dollop of jam on it. And that goes for our entertainment too.
Mr. Clouds would seem to suggest that I am arranging for bullfights on the promenade. Let me hasten to assure him that such is not our intention. We do not intend setting ourselves up as a house of ill fame, shall we say, in Buenos Aires.
Come in, N.D. Numpley.
I, for one, will not go to Marine House anymore. I have to think of my daughter, who is at the impressionable age of 37, and who I do not wish to expose to continental frivolity. I suppose it'll now be all snails and garlic, as I hear that the new cook was formerly a dancer at the Moulin Rouge.
There is no truth whatever in the rumour that Mrs. Trudge, the cook, was a dancer. On the contrary, she was a washerwoman in Nuneaton. Perhaps that will set at rest the fears of the parents of impressionable sons and daughters like Mr. Numpley. Casa McGurgle flings open its portals to one and all. Come and see for yourselves. All.
Eh?
A merry joke. It appears there was a funeral going uphill when the coffin fell off the catafalque and started to slide backwards down the hill. Whereupon the corpse leaped from the coffin, rushed into a chemist and said, "Pardon me, sir, can you give me something to stop me coughing?"
But how can a corpse have a cough?
It's going to be a long, hard winter.
Never missed
Speak up.
Never missed a season. And I have been a member of the MCC for many hundreds of years. I can remember when the players wore doublet and hose. Lord's was a desolate place in those days, haunted by highwaymen. Many a man was held up on his way to the crease and had his bat and pads stolen.
Have you,
What?
Have you noticed any other changes?
Well, the boys don't hit as they used to, and the dresses are shorter than... Surely, you're my old friend's great-granddaughter.
No.
Yes, I thought so. At the tavern last season, I thought I saw Queen Victoria.
And, was it her?
If it was, she's wearing devilish well. Whoever it was, she cut me dead. The tavern.
The tavern.
The tavern where tanned men from the lonely outposts of empire rub shoulders with rosy-faced bishops, and the laughing eyes of slim girls bestow the guerdon of their approval. Play up. Play up. Play the game.
This could not happen in any other country.
A peer was stalking a roebuck in a misty Scottish glen. Bang went his well-charged rifle. A miss, then bang again. 2 misses, roared his lordship, as his stockings trailed in the wet. Serves me right for not wearing a thoroughbred garterette.
When you're banging away in the heather...
Treacle, celebrate, garterets.
And now, for those of you who complain this program teaches them nothing, an historical note. The telephone first came into everyday use in Philadelphia in 1890. The bath reached Philadelphia in 1840. Any one of you who were lucky enough to be living in Philadelphia in 1840 had 50 years in which to take a bath without having to get up to answer the phone. And now, hot from the Scottish press, an old Scottish air called Bonnie Jeannie, although its real name is McWhirla's Lament. Oh, can ye Willie Broon Jeannie? Oh, ken ye Brully Glen? Why, the Baslocks on the brig, Jeannie. Ah, Bukar for Big Ben. Snee white your hair, Jeannie, working down the wall. The maiden crees are bracked, Jeannie, and the loof spars in the wall. Sarins the tweed hooked, Jeannie, blithe, determined Barney skull. The snoters blate the criffle, Jeannie. Way Burke frae the girl. Oh, ken ye Willie Broon, Jeannie? Where's the limmer noo? Flick the strick, the brick licked nicked. Our money a tirlair to you.
Hold on a minute. There were a number of words in that poem that I didn't understand.
Which words, numbskull?
Bannock.
A small ban, white in colour.
Gotcha.
A ramrod curing of female whitebait.
Wow.
Decayed treacle. A cabman's collar in a teapot.
Spar.
A method of boiling glue in Lanark.
Devian.
A goiling sound like the frackle of a hoocht.
Tolmond.
The edge of an egg in midwinter.
Snother.
A frozen handcuff.
Sir.
A glimpse of red flannel on a ship's bridge.
Junior, I believe you're making them up.
I'll give you a great whack on the jaw. Get out! Miss Fiona Godley Yap of South Mimms lost her engagement ring on a beach at Broadstairs in 1938. Returning to Broadstairs last week, 30 years to the day, Fiona began digging casually. To her absolute amazement, she dug up a schoolgirl friend she hadn't seen since she was 14. It's a small world, said Fiona happily as she saw. Now then, nymphs and shepherds come away, but the rest of you stay where you are. Listen now to the deathless verse that drifts like yogurt from the pen of Roland Milk.
Lamb's thoughts. I saw a lamb upon a tree. I looked at it. It looked at me. And all day long, the lamb and I just stood and stared. I wonder why. I cannot tell, nor can the lamb, and neither of us cares a damn.
Birds and poets. First, there was Baudelaire's Albatross that fell smack onto the deck of a ship, broke its neck. Baudelaire likened the sound to that of two large naked fat ladies colliding at speed in a steam bath. Wordsworth's Cuckoo choked to death while trying to reply to the poet's very handsome address. 33A, Sebastopol Terrace. Keats' immortal Nightingale died bankrupt, having lent the poet considerable sums in his lifetime. Mortified, Keats wrote Ode to a Nightingale. Birdseed 309, laundry 4 shillings, fags 7 each. Now, Gerard de Nerval's lobster, Germain, threw itself off the bridge at St. Cloud into the Seine and was drowned. The coroner's verdict, guilty but insane. Let me remind you of one of the great discoveries of history. Sir Isaac Newton was seated one afternoon neath the shade of an old apple tree when suddenly, kaplonk, an apple fell, striking him on the head. Isaac was so excited, he summoned his housekeeper, Granny Smith, into the garden. Granny, he cried, it's happened. I discovered slapstick. Don't go away. We pause now for advertising matter.
Gentleman, son of lady and gentleman, seeks employment of a gentlemanly nature with lady and gentleman, or gentleman and lady, or both.
At the Old Barn, Barklesham, next Tuesday, the nudist thespians present their nudist version of Much Ado About Nothing.
Can anyone help the Bishop of Acton, who is very concerned about his parson's nose?
People often ask, what is the dish of the day at Grotti's restaurant? I am.
Drusilla Sedgerush is no longer free, but very reasonable.
And to further while away the time, here is a merry competition. My first is a clergyman's treacle spanner. My second is a wedge-like covering for porcelain teeth. My third is a frozen Arab sock. My fourth is less than the colour of a bloater in October, and the whole resembles a Dutch uncle frightener. What am I? First prize, the pyramids. Second prize, a free burial at sea with a woman of your own choice.
Hello. I am the Snivel Research Director. Now, last week, I told you about multi-Snivel, the simple cure for everything. Now, since the announcement of this incredible product, the response has been quite staggering. We've had a most gratifying number of testimonials from every quarter. Hear first what Mrs. Clouds has to say.
For 48 years, I have been a martyr to blushing. The moment anyone looked at me or spoke to me, I could feel the colour suffusing my face, neck, forehead, arms, and legs. Then I tried multi-snibber, and I can now converse freely with all my friends without blushing.
Hear now what the Reverend E. Clark Fundle has to say.
17 of my little boy's freckles have completely disappeared.
Even in faraway devices, the praises of multi-snibbo are sung. Hear Mr. G. Sturgeon on the subject.
I tried Snibbo on the door of my potting shed. It has never squeaked since.
Yes, use multi-snibbo for teeth and gums and other ornaments.
Is another world watching us? A recent observer described an unidentified flying object as having a large body and a small curly tail. The enlightened mind would dismiss this as a comet, and he would be wrong. What the observers saw was quite clearly a giant-sized scampi. Perhaps reconnoitering before our planet is invaded by seafood from outer space. We can all play our part in defending the sceptred isle by laying in a supply of sauce tartare bullets. Right now, or preferably after you have witnessed the latest outbreak of Captain Fowlernuff. Recently, he was observed, albeit fleetingly, at a public dinner.
I was saying, young man, that not many of our old families can boast that a Savile Row tailor calls 4 times a year at their country estates to measure the scarecrows for new suits.
That's frightfully good, don't you think, Master?
I remember once I was crossing a river in crocodile-infested Pye country. I was halfway across when I glanced at my watch and saw that it was 7:30.
Dinner time?
Precisely.
What did you do?
What could I do? I changed. Of course, the native porters had to lift me out of the water so that I could get my trousers on. But by the time I arrived on the far bank, I was in white tie and tails. I flatter myself that from that moment, every Boara tribesman could recognize a gentleman when he saw one.
Wasn't that the year you got your OBE, Carstairs?
Yes. Got that for wearing an opera hat during a night attack on a mutinous tribe. I remember once...
The speeches.
Milords, ladies and gentlemen, pray silence for your toast, master.
I say, hasn't he got that wrong?
Yes, yes, toast! Toast with a compliment on your toast, master!
At Knockover College, an inquiring parent asked Dr. Smallick how the sexes were segregated. If you must know, madam, he said, we go round with a crowbar and prise them apart.
The latest news from Knockover is that there's to be a new matron at the school, a Miss Sonia Putsnitsinya. She was for some years in the back row of the chorus at the Gaiety Theatre. Bangkok.
Hello, Doc. I'm Sonia Puznitska, the new matron.
And I'm the old headmaster. Welcome to Knockover. Do sit down, matron. Now tell me, have you had much experience with youths?
Of course. I love them all.
I think we're going to get on very well together, matron. How about a little pick-me-up? You must be tired after your journey.
Thank you.
Vodka?
Yes, thank you.
Now, matron, your duties will not be overtaxing, just tending to the welfare of the boys, and, of course, from time to time, myself. Do sit down. Well, we at Knockover like to pass our leisure time in an innocent game of cards. Do you play?
Of course I do, you naughty boy.
Care for a game?
Of cards?
Of course.
I warn you, I'm hot stuff.
At cards?
Of course.
I knew I'd done the right thing when I put that advertisement in the stage. Sonia!
Yes, Headmaster.
Oh, Sonia, you set my blood aflame.
Oh, Headmaster.
Oh, Sonia! Ow!
You naughty boy.
Shall we play? 4 aces. I'll see you, matron.
I'm going to swallow it.
You'll soon get used to our little ways, matron. Another game.
Will Dr. Smart Alec reach the top of matron's stocking again, or will Sir Edmund Hillary beat him to it? Are teeth habit forming?
It's a vexed question, and no two doctors will agree. Some believe that teeth in moderation are harmless. Others come down very strongly on the side of gums. Mrs. Renata Froth, married with 4 basset hounds, writes, I cut down on my teeth during my summer holidays. Since then, I have never looked back. So the teeth of the nation is our only concern. We call in the testimony of an expert as we present Dr. Rhubarb's Corner.
My niece has got such long arms that in crowded places her elbows like rub against her knees, make them sore. What do you advise?
Knee pads? Unless, of course, she's a chimpanzee. And what's your trouble?
Doctor, can you tell me why they don't sell castor oil in boots anymore?
Because it kept running out of the lace holes, you patchy.
Doctor, can you recommend anything to get rid of stains?
Drop a bomb on it.
Doctor, every year at just about this time, my husband has a sudden, powerful urge to become a swallow or a common house martin. Either way, he's sitting on the telegraph wires for hours. What can I do?
Point the idiot south.
Doctor, how can I acquire a beauty spot?
Ask your husband to buy you the Lake District.
Doctor, what can you recommend for a very, very spotty ventriloquist?
The Acne Empire. Next, please.
Doctor, what do you recommend for a very depressed grass widow?
Take in a herbaceous border.
Doctor, how can I stop my wife smoking?
Throw a bucket of water over her.
A regular correspondent writes to air a grievance. He's very concerned about the gloomy nature of weather forecasts and asks, why do the meteorological chappies always predict squally showers, gale force winds, and ground frosts? Don't we get enough of that sort of thing in real life? Well, if it's any consolation, tomorrow will be muggy. The day after will be Toogie, then Weggy, Thurgy, Fraggy, Swiggy.